Welcome into the PFF Draft Review powered by PFF Elite. Today it's all about the New York Giants, Sam, who kicked the draft off with Saquon Barkley, the #2 overall pick. Look, we didn't love it because we don't love running back value that high, but we have to discuss the reasons why. I mean, I really think especially because Sam Darnold went #3 to the New York Jets, this debate over whether they should have taken a quarterback, whether that quarterback should have been Sam Darnold versus Barkley, this is one that's going to be discussed for years, especially in New York.
Yeah, it really is. This is a franchise-defining draft choice. They have nailed their colors to the mast, and they've said, we believe in Eli Manning. We think he's not done. We think he still has what it takes to take us to the Super Bowl before his time is done. And we think that Saquon Barkley is a generational running back talent who is too good to turn down with the 2nd overall pick in the draft. Every number we have says that no matter how good Saquon Barkley is, he is not as valuable as a quarterback. He is not as valuable as even a top cornerback, but they had a franchise quarterback sitting on the board and elected to pass him up for Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, so looking at our draft board, we had Sam Darnold as #2, the #2 player in the entire draft board, and that's elevated a little bit just because he is a quarterback, and a quarterback we truly believe that you could build a franchise around, who was outstanding in 2 years at USC, can make these fourth-quarter comebacks, can make special NFL throws. So with Eli Manning, 37 years old, and on the decline these last couple of years, in our world, we're saying it's a no-brainer. You have to go with the quarterback. And then we have this analytics team over here at PFF that has continued to research more and more about the value of the running back. The number that stood out to me was Alvin Kamara last year. His season was incredible. As good as we've seen from a value standpoint from a running back since 2014, but it was the 92nd most valuable season among receivers and running backs combined during that time. So 92 receivers were more valuable than last year's Alvin Kamara. Now, Barkley could put up a season like that year over year. He is that type of talent in the pass game. He's outstanding. So that's the concerning part, is the true running back value in today's NFL.
Yeah, we've been diving into EPA, expected points added, and wins above replacement for all positions in the NFL. And the bottom line is, it is all about the passing game in today's league. And even within that, it's quarterbacks first by a distance. No other position can come close to quarterbacks when it comes to value and what is helping your team win games. After that, it's coverage. The running backs are way down the list. And even in terms of running backs, it's all about what those guys can do as receivers. And at least to the Giants' credit, they understand that. You know, Pat Shermer, when he was asked about Saquon Barkley, the first thing he said was, when you look at running backs, the thing you need to ask yourself first is, what can they do catching the ball as a receiver? And that is what Saquon Barkley is special at. That is why he was our #1 back in this draft, despite not being the best pure ball carrier between the tackles. That's not what his strength is. His strength is what he can do as a receiver, and he can be a true matchup nightmare for linebackers and safeties.
Yeah, I want to get into his skill set and what he can do, because adding him to that offense as a mismatch weapon, as you said, you could split him out wide, you can run him out of the backfield on wheel routes, on linebackers. You can absolutely get value out of him there. And then when you look at the rest of the Giants' depth chart with Odell Beckham, with Sterling Shepard working the slot, Evan Ingram as a mismatch type of guy in the slot, I mean, the offense is getting these pass game weapons, which is fantastic. Now, in the run game, we've heard Barkley described as a perfect prospect and that he's clean across the board. And look, we love his receiving, not a perfect runner across the board, though.
No, he really isn't. This idea that he is flawless or without any issues in his game, I think is completely wide of the mark. He does relatively struggle running the ball between the tackles. He is a run-to-daylight kind of player. He doesn't want to take 3 yards if that's all that's there. For a 233-pound back, he is looking for space the entire time. If the hole in the middle of the offensive line is muddy, he's going to try and bounce it outside. He's going to try and turn that into 20 yards. And sometimes it works. He has exceptional breakaway percentages over his career. He's always been amongst the top guys when it comes to breakaway percentage, 3rd in each of the past 2 seasons when it comes to this draft class. The problem is, it does cause him to lose yardage a lot of time. It causes him to get less than what is there. And for a guy in particular that size, that big, that strong, you should be able to maximize those carries, and he just doesn't.
So because our pre-draft analysis focused on his, I guess, inability to go get 3 or 4 when it's there, 3 and 4 yard potential gains turned into -2, -3 far too often. Our final take on Barkley as a prospect, as a runner, was that, hey, if you put him behind a good offensive line, he could have some special seasons, he could create some big plays, but if he has to create on his own behind a bad offensive line, it could be ugly. So then we get to our second round pick, Will Hernandez, and where this is all starting to fit in well. If you look at what the Giants have done in this offseason now, they had Nate Solder at left tackle, mostly for his pass protection. That's the most important thing. But they're getting one of the best run-blocking left tackles in the NFL. And then Will Hernandez, their second round pick, who we love. He's an outstanding player. We had him as a top 20 type of player in this draft, our number 2 guard. And he's a mauler in the run game and smooth in pass protection. But if we just focus on the run blocking for a minute, that left side with Solder and Hernandez shaping up really well, and at least that could match up with Barkley's skill set a little bit, get those maulers up front, and if he has a good run blocking, that breakaway percentage number that you broke out, that's where that will start to come into play.
That has a chance to be the best double team block in all of football this next season. And now when we start looking at the rest of this draft, we see that at least the Giants have this overarching plan. It's not just one snap decision to take Saquon Barkley because he's such a special athlete. They have a design around this. We're going to take Saquon Barkley, then we're going to come back for one of the best offensive line prospects in this entire draft, and we're going to make sure that this guy has the platform to work from. So you get Will Hernandez, and I first noticed this guy at the Senior Bowl. He was absolutely dominating guys in one-on-one drills, and this is elite competition. This is an all-star game. He's going one-on-one against guys, and he's mirroring them in the one-on-one drills, taking them out of the plays. He took Jalen Holmes almost completely out of the drill on one play. The Vikings drafted that guy in the 4th round. So he was able to absolutely destroy people at the Senior Bowl, and that just matched up with his college tape that was so fantastic.
Look, it showed up all the year for 2 straight years, 3 straight years actually at UTEP. The last 2 years he was number 1 in the nation in pass blocking efficiency, 99.6, allowed only 4 pressures over the 2-year period. So Will Hernandez, we didn't want to pigeonhole him as a mauler because he's so good in the run game. And what was the scouting report you heard on him that just matched up well?
He plays like he doesn't like people.
That's exactly how he run blocks, like he doesn't like people. We're stealing that one. Yeah. The grades show it. He mauls people in the run game, and he mauls people in pass protection. So look, we love the Will Hernandez pick. And if you're going to get Saquon Barkley in the first, adding a mauling run blocking guard who can do it all in the second makes a ton of sense. So we like that pick right there. 3rd round, Lorenzo Carter, edge rusher out of Georgia. I think on one hand it fits what the Giants are trying to do with more of a hybrid scheme. They got rid of Jason Pierre-Paul on one edge. JPP and Olivier Vernon, they've been the 2 edge rushers the last couple of years, but they do want to play more of this 3-4 hybrid type of scheme that usually has one designated rusher and one guy who kind of do both. And JPP and Olivier Vernon, they're both rushers. They're going forward. Lorenzo Carter has experience in that 3-4 outside linebacker type of role at Georgia, so we could drop into coverage a little bit, kind of be that do both type of guy. I guess the problem there is he's never really been a dominant edge rusher. So it's okay grabbing him in the 3rd. He's an excellent athlete, projection type of player, but there was some 1st and 2nd round hype for him, which we never really bought into.
Yeah, but the pick that I think has a chance to really seal this draft is getting the quarterback eventually. In the 4th round, Kyle Aletta, a player that they could have found their future with this guy. He was a player, he's our 7th ranked quarterback. Some of us wanted to make him the 6th ranked quarterback, Steve. Push him ahead of Josh Allen in PFF's draft rankings.
There was real debate. He was fighting me to put Aletta over Josh Allen in our rankings. There was actually a groundswell even within the company. We did not do it though. We did not do it. We still had Josh Allen as a slightly better prospect.
One roadblock somewhere in the process preventing us from doing that. But we had this guy as our 7th round quarterback, a player we thought could be picked early in the 2nd round. That's how good we thought he was before some of these quarterbacks started to slide. But this is a guy whose accuracy is off the charts. He looked fantastic at the Senior Bowl. Some of the red zone drills he had at the Senior Bowl were absolutely incredible.
Oh, the fades that he threw, everything.
Dropping these passes onto the pylon at the back of the end zone on those fades. He could legitimately be the quarterback that rescues this draft class for the Giants, gives them their potential heir apparent to Eli Manning, and still allowed them to select Saquon Barkley at number 2.
He's kind of a poor man's Sam Darnold in where his strengths lie. He doesn't have a great arm, but his strengths lie in throwing the ball over the middle of the field, throwing with anticipation. That's a big Darnold strength. But coming into the season, our scouting report on Darnold said deep ball. That's an issue. Got to work on it. That's Aletta. So he was the #1 graded quarterback at the intermediate level. That's that 10 to 19 range. That's the money zone in the NFL. But the deep ball was terrible. It was one of the worst in the entire draft class last year. So short area accuracy, anticipation, excellent. Not a great arm. Shows up on the deep ball a little bit. But there's something to work with there. And you're right. If he does end up becoming the guy over Eli Manning, that could rescue this draft. And just so you know, when we compare him to Davis Webb, who was there last year, he was higher on our board than Davis Webb was last year. So we think a little bit more of Aletta than Webb.
And I think that's important, is that this isn't just a guy to throw into the bottom of that depth chart as a random piece of quarterback competition. This is somebody that we actually had graded higher than Davis Webb. And if we were, projecting which one of those guys had the potential to succeed at Eli Manning, we would start with Aletta, not with Davis Webb.
Rounding out the draft for the Giants, the 2 interior defensive linemen, Vijay Hill, who did his best work at the Senior Bowl. He was okay at NC State, pretty good player, 81.5 PFF grade last year. Really dominant at the Senior Bowl, one of the best in the one-on-ones. You could find actually all of our one-on-one numbers in the PFF draft guide as part of Edge or Elite. And then RJ McIntosh out of Miami in a draft that just didn't have a whole lot of interior penetrators. He was the #3 or 4 guy with that ability to get up the field, and certainly worth the 5th-round pick.
And this was a big draft for Senior Bowl players. This is a coaching staff that was down there that saw these guys play, and you get Will Hernandez, you get Cal Aletta, and you get Vijay Hill. These are 3 guys that all had extremely strong performances at the Senior Bowl, crucially against elite competition. All-star game, and they end up all making the same draft class.
So overall, it's a draft class with a lot of players we liked, but I can't help but think if the first player drafted was Sam Darnold rather than Saquon Barkley, maybe you have to push Aletta out of there for someone else. Maybe we'd like it just a little bit more.
Could have been better.
There you have it, your PFF breakdown on the New York Giants NFL draft. It's all powered by PFF Elite.